Hi, I'm Laylee Carew.
And I'm Madeline Polly. This is channel 19000795643 367498765431 with MKS Morning News.
Right. And today we will be reviewing the latest news from around the world.
A great start to your morning.
This just in, resource consumption has hit a whole new level and is destroying our Earth. For those of you who don't know what resource consumption is, it is the ways and rates that humans consume resources.
Yes, we have released 7,936,730,435 tons of carbon dioxide emissions this year as of March 19, 2016. You can find these real-time statistics at worldometers.info.
And unfortunately, America is the leading consumer per capita of these resources.
Yep, that's right. We're fat and eating too much. As Americans, we each consume around 1 ton of food a year. Now that's a lot of food. All across the world, an average person eats about 3 to 5 pounds of food a day. The world contains enough food to provide everyone with an adequate diet, yet 80% of the world's resources are used by just 17% of the population.
And a lot of that food people consume is meat. Meat impacts the earth greatly because land that is used to raise animals loses useful soil and water. Plus, trees have to be cut down to make room for livestock, and the waste from the animals can run off and pollute nearby rivers and streams.
About 70% of the Earth's agricultural land is used to provide food for livestock, and most of the grassland is acquired by cutting down forests, which also negatively affects our Earth.
And food is not the only thing we are wasting. With only 5% of the global population, the U.S. uses about 25% of all fossil fuels.
For those of you that don't know, fossil fuels are irreplaceable energy sources such as oil, gasoline, and coal.
If everyone used resources like us Americans are, then the Earth wouldn't be able to support us.
And the worst part? We don't even feel bad about it. A recent survey showed that countries like India and Brazil that use the least resources feel the most guilt towards resource consumption, whereas Americans who use the most resources feel the least guilty about it.
Wealthy people all over the world, not just in America, are contributing to resource consumption. According to globalissues.org, in 2005, the wealthiest 20% of the world accounted for 76.6% of total private consumption.
Yep, and the poorest 10% only use 0.5% of the world's resources. The resource consumption gap is huge, and although we all need to change our lifestyles, wealthy people need to change them the most.
We'll be right back with a breaking story about climate change after this commercial break.
Climate change. This is what it does. The U.S. Geological Survey predicts a 2/3 decline in polar bear population by 2050. Are you to blame? Every time you turn on the lights, every time you take a shower, every time you start a car, you leave a long-lasting effect on the earth. For only $10 a month, you can help save these polar bears and contribute to the cause. These poor animals are losing their habitat. In January 2011, Arctic sea ice extent was the lowest on satellite record for the month. The loss of ice is the primary reason polar bears are listed as a threatened species. According to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Association, the Earth's temperature has risen 1 degree over the average. This results of melting ice caps and an overall rise of 26 to 82 centimeters in sea levels. But with that small donation, you can save the polar bears and our Earth. Donate now to Saving Polar Bears is the smartest thing to do, and if we don't, they will all die Foundation. And now, back to MKS News. It's raining, it's pouring, the old man is freaking out because of global warming.
And there's a very good reason that the old man is freaking out. Recently, there have been much more intense natural disasters globally because the Earth is much warmer than past years. And 2015 had the highest temperatures for any year on record.
Now to our next story about global warming with Kaylee LaRue interviewing an expert from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Association, Sydney Kelly.
I'm here with Sydney Kelly at the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration's headquarters. So, Sydney, what is causing all this warm weather?
This warm weather is caused by the emission of greenhouse gases, such as carbon dioxide. Humans burn thousands of pounds of coal and oil every day. Both release carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. Carbon dioxide traps heat in the atmosphere, causing the warmer weather.
That's interesting. How much have carbon emissions increased in the past decade?
Well, 2015 was the fourth consecutive year that carbon dioxide emissions grew more than 2 parts per million. According to NOAA's Greenhouse Gas Reference Network, the last time the Earth experienced such a sustained CO2 increase was between 17,000 and 11,000 years ago, when CO2 levels increased 80 parts per million. Today's rate of increase is 200 times faster.
Oh my gosh, that's fast. What are the effects of this climate change?
Some effects include longer, more intense heat waves, loss of sea ice, and accelerated rise of sea level from the melting ice. The climate change will also affect our food and water supplies and our transportation and power.
Ooh, who does this climate change affect the most?
This climate change affects poorer people the most because they often don't have the resources to prevent and easily recover from the effects of global climate change, such as the more intense global natural disasters.
Poor people. What are some solutions to this climate change?
There are many organizations that are working to keep the public informed about climate change and help solve it, such as the Environmental Protection Agency and the Global Data Initiative. But individuals have to cut down on their global footprint. Some ways to do this include recycling, using more public transportation, and energy-efficient light bulbs.
Thanks for letting me interview you.
You're welcome.
Now back to Laylee and Madeline in the studio.
Thanks, Kaylee. That's all for today, folks, on channel 19000265497 345476987654321 with MKS Morning News.
Thanks for watching.
See you bright and early tomorrow. Bye.
Climate change is the least of our worries when there are